Hello and welcome to episode 42 of the HamCorp training manual. In this episode, we build a shrine to cats, and we build Komaru. The actual building of Komaru is done on a live stream, so you can enjoy the whole 7-hour process. Welcome back. To continue today, we're making cats, first thing. To make the cats, I need fish, of course, and I just made an industrial fishery. I actually don't need that many fish, so I decided to hold off on making the big multi-threaded multi for a little bit. So I'm just going to use this thing, get my fish, and craft my Catto shrine. Still have to kind of decide where to put it though. I'm debating between putting it here or putting it like here in front of the tower. It's probably going to go here actually. This is a kind of a nice spot. And then I'll make a couple of cats, which shouldn't be too bad. And then to craft my first Komaru controller, it's actually a create recipe, which is really funny. And I'm gonna need a bunch of these multi-threaded multis, including another MTCSF. Oof, that's gonna hurt. But that's what we're here for. Now each of these cats are crafted in a layered recipe, but I don't really want to set up a whole layered automation for this, and these cats are not used that often. They're kind of only used for making the Komarus, so I'll probably just do these by hand. So I'm just gonna like pre-craft all the ingredients and then just manually set the pull on the stocking hatch. It'll be fine. Now let's get some kitties. This is my kitty distribution system. The sound effect for this multi is really something. Unbelievable. And we got all the cats. They are pretty cute. Now originally, this was actually the end of the mod pack. There was nothing beyond making Maxwell, but now there's a lot more. My original plan was to replace this model with a model of my cat. Actually, multiple models with models of my multiple cats, but that is no longer the plan. The plan is now, as you may expect, to get to the Draconic Stargate. So this stuff is done. I'm currently working on the Komaru bits over here. For the netherite trisilex oxide, I need another TSA, so I'm crafting that right now. But once that's set up, I'll be able to do those parts as well. Then I need to craft each of these multi-threaded controllers. And while I'm at it, you know, I may as well maybe make more, maybe, I don't know. And then I can make the controller for the Komaru. And then I'll also have to craft all of these blocks, which is going to take who knows how long. And then I can finally build it. He's cute. He's a cute little guy. Let's see all of them. Just a bunch of loafs. This guy's my favorite. Did another MTCSF controller, and this was way faster. This took me like 2 hours. I think the savings from using the MTCSFs has really added up. It saved so much time. I also scanned a bunch of EV machines for all of these multi-threaded machines. The controllers are required to make the Komaru controller. I might also just make some of them for like crafting purposes. But none of these machines are really my bottleneck, so I don't know. Regardless, I have to make the controllers, so I will do that. Pretty much all of them are just some combination of the machines they can simulate, IV components, Prisma helical nuclei, and like UXV circuits, basically. I don't think there's really anything new. The Komaru controller is done. I still have to put the actual multi together, but in the meantime, I am scanning an ASG reinforced plate so that I can craft DSG reinforced plates. I need Fey matter for this, and I need Fey matter for other things as well. This is a pretty easy recipe though. Borealic concentrate and impure Fey matter, which is made from Dragon Breath, Prismalium, and Liquid Lepton Coalescing Superalloy. In a True Abyss, which is mildly annoying, but it's fine. It is what it is. I believe I need 428 reinforced platings, so I'm just going to start working on these in the background. They're just reinforced plating. There's like nothing more to it. It's just an assembly line recipe with a bunch of ultra dense plates, so whatever. To do anything else, I will also need Riftic Infusion, but to make this I need yet another MTCSF controller, a few more Komaru bits, and this thing, I believe, is a module that goes on Komaru, so I need to build it first. It also needs primordial wear casings, which are an Assline recipe with some Draconic parts, UIV parts, Dragon Breath. Not too bad. After the longest single stream in HamCorp history, we have a Komaru. And this has one of the coolest renders I've ever seen. You have this little like particle beam, I guess, in the bottom going around this circle. And we've got this pink Rifton something going across this crystal in the middle that goes all the way to the top where it opens a rift into space? Question mark? No idea, but it's super cool. Big fan of this. Whoa, glitched out. Big fan. But yeah, Komaru hand placed. I'll be honest, it didn't form the first time. There was something wrong. I couldn't figure out what. There were some mistakes in the structure definition. Not by me, but like the definition itself was kind of wrong. Like blocks were present in places where you wouldn't expect them to be and stuff. Not very common, but they were there, and I think that's what messed it up. I still have to hook this up to power, and I need to hook up the inputs, and I need to read about how this actually works. But in the meantime, I will continue crafting other stuff. Speaking of crafting other stuff, by the way, the DSG reinforced platings are done. So that's big. I have all of them. I've also done the scans for the basic modules and the Riftic Infusion assembling unit. I just need to craft these and also these structures and also figure out where to put them. I think it needs to establish a link with these auto-scaling conduit terminals, but do I put them down here or do I put them on top upside down? Not sure, but I guess I will figure that out. Okay, let's talk about how this is actually going to be automated. There is a little bit of math to do here, actually. Thank God, finally. I've been waiting for this. So there are a couple of different concepts here. There's phaetic scaling. This is just a constant that depends on the number of modules I have. And there's also modular efficiency, but to be honest, I don't know where that goes or what that's used for. So the formula is here, but I don't see it being used anywhere else. I guess it'll be more obvious to me once I actually start using it. Anyway, phaetic scaling is, like I said, just a constant that depends on the number of modules and advanced modules, and I want this number to be as small as possible. However, because it's based on the number of modules, it's just going to be whatever it is. The point is that the more modules I have, the more expensive it is to run the Komaru, which makes sense. Next, there is filament stabilization. The way this works is every 10 seconds, the multiblock will consume all the Komaru filaments that I give it, and it will use that number in a following calculation to determine how much Fey matter to consume. That amount of Fey matter consumption has a minimum, so I don't want to just provide an infinite number of filaments because I'm just going to consume too many filaments and not get any benefit for them. So there is a specific number of filaments that I need to provide per 10 seconds. It is based on the tier of filament, but right now I only have the tier 1 filament, so I'll just calculate for that. Next, there is Fey matter consumption. Basically, every 10 seconds, the machine will consume Fey matter from the stocking input hatch, and it will consume a minimum of 10 buckets and a maximum of 50 buckets. So if you don't care about being efficient here and you just want to get this thing going, because the amount is capped at 50 buckets, just make sure you're able to make 50 buckets worth of Fey matter per 10 seconds. I'm going to be more efficient here because the formula for Fey matter consumption is given in this tooltip. It is the consumption of Fey matter in the previous cycle times the filament stabilization times the phaetic scaling. Because the consumption of Fey matter in the previous cycle determines the consumption in the current cycle, this is exponential growth. The amount of Fey matter that gets consumed is going to quickly get out of hand and reach that 50 buckets per cycle cap. The first cycle always starts with 10 buckets, or it assumes that the previous cycle, the 0th cycle if you want to call it that, consumed 10 buckets, so the minimum. And I want to continue consuming only 10 buckets per 10 seconds. Now, phaetic scaling, like I said, is just a constant, so I'll just work out what that number is. So I need to get filament stabilization to be 1 over that number. In other words, I want filament stabilization times phaetic scaling to equal 1, right? And to do this, This is probably very hard to read, but this is phaetic scaling. This is the modular efficiency that isn't really used anywhere. I don't know what this is for. This is filament stabilization, and this is the amount of Fey matter that's consumed. FC0 is the initial amount, so 10. T is the tier of filament. NB is the number of basic modules, so up to 20. And NA is the number of advanced modules. So at minimum, if I have one advanced and one basic, then I don't need to provide that many filaments to keep my Fey matter below 10. And basically all this means is every 10 seconds, this thing is going to consume 120 Komaru filaments, and it's going to consume 10 buckets of Fey matter. And I will be free to set up as many modules as I want. It will be less efficient than it could be when I don't have all modules in place, but at least this way I don't have to keep tweaking it every time I add a module. I'm going to do this by swapping this stocking input bus with a regular input bus, and I'm going to set up a ME requester to make sure I have enough filaments and Fey matter at all times. Still have to set up the laser. I'll do that right now. There are some more details about how power consumption works and stuff. The power consumption is the Fey matter consumption divided by 11. It also says if left unchecked, I will face dire consequences. I think that's actually kind of a joke. I don't think it actually does anything. The dire consequence being that it stops working. Like, okay. And this, by the way, if you don't bother to do all of this math and optimization, your power consumption will be 50 divided by 11 times higher than it needs to be. Oh yeah, and there's also modular overclocking. I mean, more power means faster. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, so I'm not going to look too deeply into it. I also flipped these rotor holders upside down because I think that's actually how it's supposed to be. Because the modules are going to go on top here, and the rotor holders would kind of be blocked. I don't know if that matters or not, because they don't actually spin. I don't know. Okay, I'm going to make some modules. I'm going to set this up. I will start with one advanced module, the Riftic Infusion Assembling Unit. And I'll also make these two basic ones, the Magmatic Drilling Unit and the Voidic Refinement Unit. Riftic Infusion Assembly Unit done. This is going to go in one of these top slots. I think the top 4 are for advanced modules and the bottom 20 are for basic modules. Because these advanced ones wouldn't fit in these bottom slots. So, because they're 5 tall and it's a 4 tall gap. So these are going to go over here. Basically, all of the crafting recipes need a scan, so it's kind of like an assembly line, but I don't think the order actually matters, which is nice. It means I can just use a pattern buffer. There's not that many recipes either, so one pattern buffer should be fine. This unlocks 3 new multiblocks. The Kaleidoscope Fractalizer, cool looking thing. This combines Riftions to make condensed Rimula and Primordial Extract and Phaetic Extract. Riftions and True Rimula Foundation, I don't know what those are yet. I guess I'll find out in a second. Here's Riftion Production. Oh, there's 4 multiblocks. There's the Riftion Accelerator and Riftion Slammer. So this is a particle accelerator and collider, but it uses particles as items. But that's okay. These particles are also spin 1/3, which is really weird. That can only exist in 2D as anyons, but this is 3D, so I don't know. So Riftion Accelerator needs some aux2 controllers and some other pretty easy to get stuff at this point. The accelerator kind of looks like a synchrotron, and this is going to consume Riftion Plasma using Riftion Extract and Neutronium. The extract needs a Rimula extraction, and it's going to be used with some, probably these Primordial Shadowworm Ultradense plates, or maybe Neutronium Ultradense plates, I don't know, one of those two. And it makes a bunch of particles in different states. The Riftion Slammer, which is the collider, combines particles of different states to get neutral particles and wild Riftions. Oh, there's a 5th multi, the Rimula Extraction Unit. These use Kaleidoscope Agitation Serum and Runic Wave Generators to make Riftion Extract and highly unstable Rift Source. Kaleidoscope Agitation Serum is an ordered chemistry recipe, and the Riftion Extract is used for making Riftion Plasma. Highly unstable Rift Source can be cyclonic sifted into destabilized Rift Source and Riftion Extract. The destabilized is used for Abyssal Rift Slurry, which is used for some stuff that goes into True Rimula Foundation. Okay, so we found it, finally. Pretty interwoven, the progression here. And finally, the Riftion Injector. This is crafting with particles. This is kind of like the Beam Crafter from GTNH. I wonder who added that. And this combines items with particles to make other items, basically. Now it says EU to start, so I guess this kind of works like a fusion recipe. And with all of those, I can make singularities, Riftions, Riftion fluids, and I can finally finish up this page to do the final processing line in the game. To go from Kaleidoscope Agitation Serum to primordial residue, riftic concentrate, and prismatic hypergermalium. Once I have those, I gain access to a few more things. So there's the limitless overactive alloy fuser, the loaf. This is the final ABS, and I also get the Fornax's infernal rotary engine, or the fire. This needs a soul of the flame, which is a draconic infusion recipe with heart of the flame. And this is basically an improved Hellforge. It's a throughput boosted Hellforge, which would be super nice. And finally, it will also unlock Raging Remulatia, which is the best tier of Turbine, and Primordially Stellarized Weapon Grade Knack. And with those, I can start crafting the Draconic Stargate. So I am going to set up all of this stuff, and then we'll take a look at the actual DSG. It looks like the end is in sight. Okay, I found a little, not mistake, but something that's easy to misread or misunderstand. So the Fey matter consumption was not lining up with what I calculated, and there were two issues. So one of them was a mistake on my part in my Desmos. The Phaetic scaling is 1.025 to the number of basics plus 3 times number of advanced. I forgot the 3, but that's on me. But another issue I noticed was, remember how I said modular efficiency didn't come into play anywhere? It does come into play. The Fey matter consumption is the consumption in the previous cycle times the filament stabilization times Phaetic scaling. But Phaetic scaling here is actually Phaetic scaling from this times modular efficiency. It says here in the tooltip, it says compromised. It should be comprised. Comprised of the product of Phaetic scaling and modular efficiency. But the overall quantity is also called Phaetic scaling, so that's a bit confusing. I think it would be better to just separate these things. There's Phaetic scaling, there's modular efficiency, and there's filament stabilization. And then you multiply all 3 of those things together times the previous amount of Fey matter to get the Fey matter consumption. And that does line up with the amounts predicted by the controller. Actually, I think this is bugged. I'm looking at the numbers used here, and it's like the Komaru filaments aren't doing anything. So I'm gonna ask around and find out if it is actually bugged, but I guess for now I'm just gonna have to inframax the Fey matter and eat the 50 buckets per cycle cost and the increased power costs. That hurts. Okay, well, maybe there's a way to fix this. I'll find out. But for now, I'm just gonna eat the extra cost so I can continue, and I'm gonna craft these different multi-block controllers. Let's go. Okay, I have returned with confirmation that it is indeed bugged. There's an extra -1 in the code where there shouldn't be, which is kind of funny. But this is a known issue and will be fixed in the next update, which is great. And there is also a way for me to fix this. So I gotta go into the files and change some values, basically. You can find the details of this little fix on the StarT Discord. You can also just ask me on my Discord. Maybe I'll put it in a pinned comment or something. But I am gonna go do that. I'm gonna change those settings, get this to work, hopefully, and then I'll continue. And this actually solves another issue that was looming. And that is these recipes, I think. The Riftic enhancement recipes are all UXV, but there is no UXV energy hatch, which means all the modules on the Komaru can only operate at UIV, so I couldn't have done those crafts. So it's actually impossible to gate without making these fixes. So I'm gonna go do that right now. I also need to make a primordial infusion array, or maybe I'll make a bunch and just upgrade the array that I have. But I need one at least for the scan, so I can make a Riftic enhancing unit. This is the same multi I just mentioned. This is where the rod craft is done. But yeah, that's another thing on the list of things for me to craft. I think I will craft all of these things and we'll actually build it in the next episode. Thank you for watching this episode of the HamCorp Training Manual. In the next episode, we will set up the Rifty online and probably make some upgraded Hellforges too. We will also perhaps begin on the path to the 3rd and final Stargate. See you next time.